Since he wore purple all the time, could we legally call him the Grapist?
Why everyone going with the Mephisto theories? I was like,
Constantly, that's just the
That's
entirety of his miniseries looking for his
Hello, and welcome back to another episode of the Happy 616th Marvel Family. I keep messing that up. Oh, wait, no, I got it right this time. I did. Look at that. Look how special I am. So, today we have our very first two guests being Nephi and Angie Nelson. Say hi.
Hey,
Hello.
how's it going?
Hello.
Hey. They are part of a group that I'm actually in that does a lot of free workshops for voice acting. So if you have any more questions or comments or whatever, ask for it in the comments, and then we'll get to those immediately since we have a very low listening audience. Anyway, the reason why I brought them on here today is because we need a general audience perspective on today's topic. And would I be assuming too much to say that you guys don't read the comics and don't really do too much research on the MCU?
Not much. Just I watch the movies.
Same here.
Okay, yeah, that's exactly what we're looking for. So today's topic is for specifically surrounding the MCU. Oh, by the way, if you haven't listened to our podcast before, I'm not sure if you have, but we do everything Marvel here. So we switch back and forth from like comics to the MCU and pretty much any other comic book thing if we have our cheat day. But today we're going to be looking specifically into the MCU in their presentation through movies versus TV shows. So we wanted to get everybody's perspective on that, and especially the general audience perspective of going in to see the movies versus going to Disney Plus and then seeing the shows that are connected to the bigger universe, and then compare of which source of media is objectively and subjectively better. So right now, since I've already introduced those guys, I'm gonna stall and put up a wheel, as I always do, because it's just going to be part of the show from now on.
The classic wheel, back at it again.
The classic wheel, always hiding from me. And as I'm doing that, I'm going to have these two other guys, figuratively standing next to me, introduce themselves as well.
I am, as you may guess, known as Victor, aka the X-Man, once again returning for this stream on the Happy 616 Marvel Family Podcast.
Oh, and I'm Christopher.
Back once more.
Yes, back at it again. Yes, always great to be back. Fun times all around.
And I am your host, the Funny Hatter, and the wheel is all set up. And just to make things easier, Nephi and Angie, when I pick on Nephi, I'll just have one of you guys go, and then the other just give their 2 cents, and then we'll move on to somebody else. Sound good?
All right,
fantastic. So we are going to spin the wheel and see who gets to talk about movies versus television for the MCU. Look at that! Who would have guessed our first guest gets his first word, or her first word, whoever decides to do rock, paper, scissors first.
Perfect.
way to go, Andy.
Alright.
All right, rock paper scissors 2 out of 3. Rock paper scissors.
Fastest rock, paper, scissors in the West.
Scissors. Rock paper scissors. All
Yeah,
right, she beat me.
Anyway, movies versus shows. So I definitely went into movies like extremely blind. Like I really didn't know anything of comics, and I think the first of the MCU movies that I ever saw was actually Thor. I think he showed up.
You didn't see Iron Man?
No, I didn't. I saw Iron Man later when it was like on a sort of like a school field trip thing, and it was just like staying on the bus.
Oh, wow.
And
I hope there wasn't missiles coming at you while you were watching.
I am Iron Man.
Wait a
That
minute.
extra
Wait a minute.
experience.
Just
So basically, when I saw Thor, it was just sort of like, oh, okay, this is really fun, and I can tell that there's like some background stuff that I don't know, and that probably comic fans would know a little bit more about, like how this sort of world is supposed to be set up. But for the most part, it was pretty straightforward to follow. And it was the same thing too later on when I saw Iron Man, and then later on Captain America and Avengers and all those. Especially like those basically like individual character movies. I feel like those were very well set up at sort of introducing sort of like each hero was about. They did kind of have like their a little bit of like a formula being, character introduction movies. But I still feel like they have like a strong enough identity on their own. And I feel like with the shows, like if you do not have the prior knowledge of the movies, you definitely would be very, very lost. But
Yeah.
I think by the nature of them being TV shows spinning off from the universe, they're very much relying on the audience having seen the movies first. I will say with the shows, I find myself not being as like invested with the shows as much because I feel like they're trying to do too many things with the shows. They're trying to like take some genuine risks, but also trying to tick off all their corporate check marks of like, okay, you can do some things different. They can't be too different because then we would have to change what we have planned for the movies. Like you can see that they're more pieces of a machine rather than truly being their own things. At least that's sort of my perspective quickly on the shows.
Oh. Do you have a good example of what you're talking about?
Well,
The one we watched.
yeah, the WandaVision, and honestly, what I was thinking is sort of more the Winter Soldier and Falcon show, where starts off with him giving up the shield, saying, "No, I don't want to be the new Captain America," even though the ending of the Endgame was setting up for that, and then the ending of Falcon Winter Soldier, he takes up the Captain America thing again, like, okay, going through all this just to end up sort of at the same place that we were at the end of the movies. I guess even with Wanda and Vision, you still kind of end up in the same place where Wanda's by herself and Vision's sort of out of the picture, but at least with a bigger like question mark.
Say what you're talking about. I think we'll expand upon it a bit more later because I think that's one of the issues that I have too. But I'll get to that more when it gets to my turn. But yeah, I completely agree. It seems like now that since we've gotten so far into it, already taken off the phase 3 and had like the big bad defeated, I think Disney doesn't exactly know how comfortable they can get with exposing or releasing new ideas that may be a little weird to very, very weird from a general audience perspective. Like they don't know like what's the limit, and it seems like to me, I'm not sure if you agree with me on it, but like they're just experimenting too much without actually having a limit, but also trying to limit themselves at the same time because of like the stigma of having like experimentation versus corporation of like what they want to get out there, like what kind of messages they want to send out there, either to sell, either to pander, but also keep people invested into their projects. Is that what you're going for?
Yeah, definitely. And I also feel like, with the MCU, it was very much a long-term plan, having things, lead up to Thanos and all of that. And I feel like since they had that like really big angle in mind, they were able to, really like develop each part individually leading up. And after Thanos, it really feels like things are kind of being made up as they go along. And I shouldn't be able to tell that as an audience member. Like,
We didn't even bother watching that Eternals movie. It looked awful.
yeah.
Wait, which one?
It's the Eternals.
Oh
We
yeah.
didn't even bother watching it. It looked terrible.
I mean, I agree with that. I mean, I went to go see it, but yeah, like even just by itself, just like if I wasn't even turned on to the idea of it, I mean,
I was bored by the trailer. And I
Yeah, I
hear that the movie is mostly really boring.
yeah,
And their
I mean-
characters you don't even care about.
yeah. It's definitely a problem when like people are trying to get creative, but you also, if you're gonna make a movie, don't have 10 main characters being
Right.
protagonists.
This is a movie where you're like, why wasn't this a show?
Yeah.
I know, yeah, and I went to go see Eternals myself, and there's a lot of ideas that they try cramming in there, but they
Right.
don't touch upon or they ignore it. And after I got done with it, I thought to myself, and I was even talking to people I went to go see it with, like, this is like stuff that should be in a TV show, because these guys are basically like another Avengers group that all need
Exactly.
their time to be flushed out, and then they
Yeah,
come together. But this was
it was
basically like what they did with
It's like
Justice
showing-
League.
Yeah, it's like showing Justice League, yeah. Or just showing like the Avengers. Any introduction of any of them, it's like, hey, you recognize them from the comics, don't you? Yeah, that's good enough. Let's go. Though in defense of Avengers, you do have Saturday morning cartoons that actually give you a good idea, and everybody knows Spider-Man's.
That's true.
But with this, it's just like, who are you? it's the whole Star-Lord thing, but an entire group. It's like, who are you? And it's like, we're the Eternals. Who? Eternals, man. We've been here for centuries.
I have not seen it yet. It's
I-
less about disinterest and more just because I'm poor.
I feel that.
I'd say my recommendation for you would be either find it off the back of a pirate ship, or just wait for it to come out like on rental, or see if like anybody else has the
Disney
movie. Or,
Plus.
yep.
Yeah.
Just
Yep,
wait.
that's pretty much what I'm relying on at this point.
Yeah.
Because, yeah, the release there is sooner. Than
Is it
anything.
January or something, right?
Seriously,
I
it's that
think so.
early? It's gonna be that early?
Think so. Yeah, I know they announced
Wow.
it at least.
Because
Yeah.
it took them like longer to put on Black Widow. I mean, yeah, it had like the court case and everything, but like it took them quite a while to put Shang-Chi
Get him,
on there.
Johansson.
Yeah.
Chicken girl.
And I can just imagine that was a field day. Just like,
Oh,
we can't
I saw.
put our
I
movies
saw
on there.
I saw a meme on that. It was the Star Wars thing of like, it was like, I don't care who wins. I just need Disney to lose.
That's what I said on Facebook too. I said I don't
Yeah.
care if Scarlett Johansson wins. I need Disney to lose, and they did, because now they're not putting their movies on Disney Plus after the whole Black Widow debacle.
Yeah.
Which is, it's funny because I talked to my mom about this, and like she's like claiming that Scarlett Johansson is being all greedy and whatnot, but I'm thinking it's like the mouse needs to be taught a lesson. How do you not understand this?
Yeah,
And,
if there's a competition on who's more greedy, it's the mouse.
Yeah, especially when they say like stuff like oh, we're like giving people the option to watch our movies at home in their own comfort, so where they don't have to risk their lives going out to the theater, when they own 20th Century Fox, which is now 20th Century Studios, and all the stuff that they produce goes on Hulu. But the thing is, they don't put their stuff immediately on Hulu. They put it in the theaters. Wow! What great examples Disney's providing the kids.
Not to mention how they go with China's check marks and
Exactly. Yeah, exactly.
And you're just like, so what? You guys support what China's doing right now?
I mean, apparently they did with Mulan, to where they had to stand by the actor.
At least with those camps, they got masks on, right? They're being.
There's a reason the latest Phineas and Ferb movie beat that one out.
Ferb, I know what we're gonna do today.
It's Phineas and Ferb, but usually they don't get that many numbers by comparison to a full-on live-action picture.
True.
Well, that and if you notice, like one of the biggest movies that came out this year, that was 20th Century Studios now, is actually Free Guy, which I still haven't seen, but I heard was really
Oh wow! I'm
fun.
surprised
I'm not-
you of all people haven't seen
Yeah,
it
I
yet.
mean, I know, right? Yeah, that's one of like the things that that I noticed when it comes to like the movies that are being made now, especially under Disney. It's like I think we'll get more into the political aspect later because I'm more than certain like more people are upset about it like than myself just as well when we get to my turn. I'm pretty sure these other guys have something to say about it too. But the thing is like if you notice, like a Free Guy made a lot of money. A movie that I'm getting close to loathing the more that I think about it. Venom, Let There Be Carnage, made a lot of money too. But I think it's definitely due to the political aspect that's taking place in the movies that we're seeing in the MCU versus other companies that are trying to do the same. So I think that has a major factor. That plays a major factor in the plan that Disney has for the MCU. Like I said, we'll get into it more into it later if it comes up. Unless Nephi has something he wants to say about it too. If Angie is done, are you done with your 2 cents, or do you still have something on your brain?
Like, I'm sure as we go on, I'll think of like other little points to bring up. I want to say like too much on my first go around, so that's.
You kind of were nailing the head on a lot of it.
Whoops.
But both of you. Yeah, I gotta say I'm enjoying the MCU more, or at least I was enjoying it more starting off, and then when the MCU shows came up, I wasn't really feeling much of the heart at all. It just feels like walking husks to me. Funny enough,
felt like what?
Because I watched WandaVision, but I didn't watch Loki. I had no interest. I stopped watching Falcon and Winter Soldier. And I'm not even going to watch Hawkeye. I just have no interest in the shows. I already know where the show's going just from the poster. I'm like, oh, well, take a back seat, Hawkeye. This is the new one. This is the girl in town. This is the MCU, everyone. Woo! Girl power! And I'm sitting there going, okay, yeah. So if anybody has any problem with that, if you say anything, you're gonna sound like a sexist, right? That's what the goal is. And you're like, no, it's that you're so full of yourself that I can smell the fertilizer.
I really do. I really do hate the marketing employees of like basically
A girl can do anything a man can, but better, smarter too.
I definitely like hate those. I call them like generic McStrong bland tropes where
they all have the same exact face.
They're all same face, even the same like haircut at times.
They're all Captain Marvel.
Yeah, I really hate that. I really hate the ploy that's happening of basically sort of generating controversy by, hey, oh, we have women here.
We've never had woman in movie before.
Exactly, and then it makes all the very like
Hold on.
I need not start.
No, you're good.
It bugs me. It
bugs me too. And there's plenty of these things because everybody says that with like first woman here, first POC this. I'm like, none of you watch Blade? Oh wait, it's not MCU, so it doesn't count. Oh, okay, because I was about to say Elektra that nobody watched, but it was starring a woman.
And that's just like, and that's another thing that sort of like bugged me. Just going back when making a big deal with Black Panther being like the first major POC superhero. And I'm not from a comic background at all, but even I went, did no one ever see Blade? Blade was very fun.
There's 3 Blade movies.
Yeah, so I'm like, okay, there were these sequels to Blade, so obviously people saw Blade, but are we just pretending that never happened? And even as a kid, I remember that cartoon of like Static Shock, and that was also
DC,
that was DC, but still, it was a superhero that was a person of color.
Yeah.
Absolutely. When I was a kid, I loved Static Shock. Like, I didn't care like what color he was. It's like this guy is like Magneto, but he also controls electricity. That's awesome.
Yes,
right?
I'm there.
Exactly. Everybody's acting like everybody's these super racist things like, oh, blah, blah, blah. It's like, no, you guys just aren't coming up with original characters.
Well, yeah, and also like with Static Shock, I mean, one of the things that got me into it was the fact that they sold it, that it was DC, because I still didn't understand like how comics worked back then, but like they had an episode to where like he crossed over with Batman. I'm like,
yeah,
oh, he knows Batman? That's awesome. It's like all I saw was kid, superpowers, and he flies on a metal disc. That's all I needed. And he's got a mask. It's awesome.
I never really watched much of the WB, so I didn't really get to see too much. But I saw the intro, and I was like, "Hey, that looks kind of..." And I liked his voice. And then later on, when you're doing voice acting and you're looking up some voice actors, you find out that it's Phil LaMarr, who has done voices for so many things. Like,
doesn't
he's Samurai Jack.
Cyborg?
I don't know about Cyborg, but he's Samurai Jack.
Well, yeah, I know.
Payton is Cyborg.
Okay, yeah, I was about to say, because that was another thing I grew up with too. Like, it's like I love. Who doesn't like Teen Titans?
Teen Titans? That was awesome. I didn't even notice. Like, yeah, you notice, but you don't think about it.
Yeah.
Like, everybody was a different color on Teen Titans. Wasn't even white. I don't think he seemed half Asian to me. But Boy's green, Raven's purplish gray, Starfire's orange, Cyborg's black. But I don't think about it. I just see it. I'm like, this is cool.
And, like, I was like,
everybody wants to yell booyah.
And that's like whenever you do, the POC or strong women marketing is like, again, we grew up seeing these shows like that had, characters with different background stuff, and it wasn't made a big deal of it. It was fine. There was no one saying like, oh, this person shouldn't be here because they're whatever identity.
There was an episode of racism in Teen Titans, though.
Yes, there was. And I really liked the way they handled that. And so I'm like, this is stuff that was like happening. So when people are saying like ridiculous things like, oh, you just don't like Black Panther because you're racist, I'm like, we did not have any of these like super big like controversy stuff growing up like in the 90s and things like that. And I find it hard to believe that somehow between the time that I was a little kid to when now suddenly all these races popped up out of nowhere. So
that's because they're
exactly. So that's why I think that a lot of these controversies are super fabricated, just so that way people can talk and generate.
Well, yeah, because everybody likes to feel smug about themselves and higher than everyone else. And it's like, oh, you plebs. But yeah, anyway, the differences of the MCU movies and shows is I have more interest in the movies than the shows, but even the movies themselves are beginning to seem like the shows. And my biggest gripe with the MCU in general is that I like when a movie is self-contained, and these movies are just they're just sequel baits. That's what all these movies are nowadays, are just sequel baits of like, here's the introduction. Now they should have changed Disney to EA Movies. He's like, now for $more, we'll put in more characters and more plot. Oh boy! Don't question, just consume. You're a bigot if you question it. We're not losing money because we suck or that we're out of touch. We're losing money because you're a bigot. You didn't like it because there was a gay guy in Eternals. There was a gay guy in Eternals? I didn't know that. Aha! You're... wait, what? It's just a big mess. And that's why I like Doctor Strange. After seeing a few of these movies, I was like, alright, this is a little formulaic and it's getting... it's this because of the MCU. This because the MCU. And yes, Doctor Strange is connected, but for the most part, the movie itself is just very self-contained, and it has its own dilemmas, and has its own unique problems. Because what's her face?
Tilda Swinton.
her, because can't have it be can't have it be a Tibet monk anymore. Karina says no, but no, I liked her explanation of things. What'd she say? Like the Avengers do the physical problems, and we're more on the magical
The
problems.
Yeah, the more mystical side.
Yeah, the more mystical stuff. I'm like, all right, that makes sense. And it's just really cool. And I'm watching this, and I'm just like, whoa, this is like Inception times 3 with the buildings. Just.
Mhm.
But yeah, I like that. I like self-contained stories that have hints, that have the after credit scenes, where it's just like, aha, there's something more. You'll be returning, kind of thing. Versus the movie is a sequel bait. It's just the movie itself is, yeah, you're not going to care about this movie, but we need to put it there so you'll care about the movies in the future.
Oh, I have a bone to pick with that particular movie, but that will be a different episode. But I'm gonna cut you guys off for now because he can only be here for a limited amount of time, so we're gonna get his 2 cents. Then we'll come back to you.
Oh yeah,
guys.
no problem.
In terms of the movies and shows, I want to clarify, it's specifically the Disney Plus variant of the shows, correct?
Yeah, like connecting. I mean, not just specifically Disney Plus, but like the shows that do in fact connect to the MCU. So like Agents of Shield would count, or Agent Carter would count.
Cause yeah, I'm actually gonna segue that little clarification to my point. Shows hate the shows. I'm just gonna say it right now.
Wait, what?
Shows hate the shows. The
Shows
movies hate the shows. Hate them, like, absolutely. Like, both parties involved. And I know that's a kind of confusing point to make, that the shows hate the shows. It sounds suicidal because there are different categories of shows.
Wait, quick question. The Runaways part of the MCU, or no? Is it kind of like Legion? Oh, it is?
Yeah, it is.
You're kidding.
Runaways, Cloak and Dagger, Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., Agent Carter. Those exist. The Netflix shows, they do exist. Hellstrom exists. Actually, that one's
Hellstrom exists?
Yeah.
Actually, it's a little more ambiguous because compared to the other ones, they don't really have as many connections aside from Roxxon, which is a pretty general one.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I guess because I heard that Cloak and Dagger. I knew for a fact that Cloak and Dagger was MCU, but
Cloak and Dagger then crossed over with Runaways. That's how it connects.
You're kidding.
That's the only way it does. Yeah, it does connect. Anyway, on my point, when it comes to those shows, the massive list of what used to be called Marvel Television in a complete different category of networks and previous streaming service that kept track of these things, is that the movies and shows hate them. Like, absolutely. Like, they have proven it
what do you mean by
time
that?
and time again. It basically, it's like your old stuff on your shelves that you want to basically toss out in order to make room and spotlight your new things. That is essentially what they're treated like. Which is a shame because they are far better at telling televised versions of the Marvel Cinematic Universe format. Like Phase 1, Phase 2, Phase 3, Phase 4, that stuff. Like, they may have been the initial prototype, but they are far better at it than the people making the films that are now, like, in charge of these shows, environments. I think the only exception, like, currently is Hawkeye, at least to me. How it's running, it is telling a very personal story about these characters their whole way without it being involved in whatever the next spin-off project is. Aside from their own, from spinning off from Hawkeye rather than spinning off from other things.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, the point I am trying to make when it comes to the previous shows and the films as well, frankly, is that they purposefully try to ignore them in order to prop themselves up. You got cases like Shang-Chi, where while I find it's a movie, their marketing for it of going that this is the first Asian lead of the MCU, it's dismissing of a previous MCU heroes. which is Quake and
Oh, yeah.
Lynn's character of Agent Melinda May, who are badasses in their own right, and basically just erases the fact that they are Asian leads.
They don't.
What was that?
Ben Kingsley doesn't count either.
Which is especially rude on Quake's part because of the fact that the actress and the character both addressed in the story is biracial, and basically just going like oh, she doesn't count is a bit rude on that account. How that works. As my sense there, and generally they had the blueprint down of like, even the one like obviously they both alternated because different shows were on different networks and streaming services. Like Netflix shows were about like 13 episodes each, while the shows on like ABC were like 22 episodes instead. And both times, like no matter the episode count, like you got stuff like Cloak and Dagger that was more similar to the Disney Plus episode count, so you can't even make that excuse of just like add more episodes. And they were better at telling singular stories. They all had a beginning, middle, and end to adapting this format of like MCU to TV, and how to do a superhero's journey as a complete hero's journey of their adventures, whether they would get a second season or not, just like with a Phase 1 film. And whether that'll get a sequel, like, Iron Man never knew they was going to get an Iron Man 2, so, still it's a singularized story of I am Iron Man,
That's the entire movie. You just walk in, the credits come down, he's like, I am Iron Man. Then the end credits come on.
Every movie just ended that way.
I'm Captain America. Da 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 da.
We know. We injected you.
Here, Captain America, fight against drugs, but take this drug to make yourself better. Okay.
Steroids? All right. Steroids.
They're cool. And yeah, as for the movies, because I want to be on the TV point like forever there of like that it is essentially just like the setup points for each film made into a TV show, for most of the time that they worked on said films. But for the movies themselves, they are still example of storytelling. With superhero fare, I still stand by their still the best of the game, even at the sort of in between stage where was said earlier on the whole point of that I think was that the shows are sort of like an in between point. They don't like have a definitive plan right now, which I do definitely agree that they aren't letting the audience into it as much as Iron Man 1 started the phase and let you know exactly that they had a plan. And now they don't are sort of at this transition period. But even with that, I feel they are still the top dog by comparison to their shows. The point on the sort of competition between them is that the films right now, especially in this COVID era where they have absolute control of what medium or place we see them, especially with that, they are being treated as experiments while the TV shows are being treated as business as usual. So, what's Wanda doing today, or what is Loki doing in his afternoons, and that sort of deal. The usuals that they expect to bring in the money are conveniently all on their service where they make 100% of the profits. And while with the movies, you got some inventive ideas going, like, say the only exception to this where it's sort of a middle gray ground between them both is Black Widow, since, it's literally catching up with what Natasha was doing. But that mainly seems like a Phase 3 movie anyway that's been delayed like a whole bunch of years.
Yeah, like a good that movie should have come out like 5 years ago. But it's like I like how you say was because past tense.
Yeah. the morbidest past tense of all time.
Yeah.
And
No. Knock, knock. Who's there? Batgirl. Past tense.
and yeah, that's sort of the one exception. But most of the time, like with cases like Shang-Chi, and yeah, going on forward with Spider-Man and everything else going by. With all that, they're being treated as the experimental ideas shifting forward. And it's being treated as a derogatory manner, not like, oh, we're trying things out and we're being like cool and actually allowing creators chances, and more just like, we'll allow you into our schedule sort of deal, like the Marvel bouncers with all these actors just sweating in front of them with like these scripts in their hands.
I completely agree because like a lot of the shows is like, I can see how. And I definitely see how it's very disrespectful to like treat the shows, especially like the very popular ones, like with the disrespect of not really introducing them or recognizing them. I mean, there are some instances that probably are for the best, like the attempt to put in Inhumans, because that was a disaster, like a critical disaster.
I'm not saying that they haven't all been winners, but they need to stop pretending that all the Disney Plus ones are too. So.
Oh yeah, definitely. Because like the Disney Plus shows, especially the Disney Plus shows, they're treated and they're shot like movies,
That is the reason they are given more of a chance, and their errors are not looked upon by comparison.
Yeah.
To the networks.
Yeah, which is weird because it's like the TV shows on Disney Plus, they're shot and they're edited to look like something you see on the big screen. Yet the movies that are coming out so far, I think it's probably because they're still just doing the introduction of new characters. They aren't touched upon because like with Black Widow, it's taking place in the past. Shang-Chi and Eternals are introductions to new characters. But if you see something like with Spider-Man, like I don't think like Spider-Man needs to touch upon like Falcon and Winter Soldier or WandaVision, but somebody at some point down the line has to touch upon these TV shows. Otherwise, it's like you said, they're just ignoring all of them, especially when they have heavy hitters or A-listers like Ghost Rider in Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. It's like, that's a big character that everybody wants to see back on the big screen and done right again. Or back on the big screen again, but this time done right. Which, although I've only seen like a few episodes of the Ghost Rider season of Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., it seems like a lot of people really like this, like Robbie Reyes as Ghost Rider.
Pretty cool.
Taking
like a
place
Ghost Rider that knows how to safely drive,
Yeah.
It's always good.
Exactly, yeah.
Road safety, very important to Ghost Rider.
This kid needs to be brought back into the MCU as a different character.
Yes.
Or Ghost Rider again, that'd be hilarious, but...
They just recast him and just put Nicolas Cage back in.
Yes. It'd be future Ghost Rider.
I like that despite the ignorance going on, the actors are still having fun with it. Like, Clark Gregg, as always, as Phil Coulson. And with What If, and recently the actor who played Ghost Rider, who, on Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. had a plot related to the Darkhold, which was then reintroduced in WandaVision.
Uh-huh.
And then he tweeted I knew I shouldn't have left it under the bed.
Whoops.
That's kind of sad when the actor of the show has to connect the dots for you instead of the editors or the producers of said universe.
I wish that it did. It was something, maybe a Marvel Knights show as a perfect way of just doing one shots on each of these guys. You have to make an entirely new reboot of each of their shows. I don't know, just an idea. Yeah, with the films themselves, well, I feel that they're doing well. Right now, they're sort of split on the format where what becomes a Disney Plus show and what becomes a film is sort of interchangeable based on what gets the audience's interests, and it's basically like in an RPG on how you like min-max your character.
Yeah.
Is Disney min-maxing themselves on what will get the audience watch times that they desire.
Big matches. Get them out of here.
Like you got a case like, with Loki. Everyone loves Loki. Everyone makes fan art imagining that they are truly with Loki.
Disgusting.
This
I want
happens
Loki to be the canon Loki.
Yep.
Florida Loki, as one would.
They won't be wanting to have sex with Loki when he's birthing eight-legged horses in the film.
Oh, there's Loki. We're going back.
That'd be pretty funny. Is like you said, like if there was a what if episode, but it's Florida Loki, and then he is every single Florida man article.
Yes.
Always has been.
Oh my gosh, we're always have
Always
some
have
better
been.
show ideas. Just
Oh yeah, these are way better concepts because they're hilarious and intriguing.
Man throws alligator through window. It's just Loki. Man trades squirrel to attack people while feeding it cocaine. Loki.
But yeah, you got that. You got Ace of Loki. They know it brings in the numbers, so they therefore put on the platform where they get 100% of the money. But then you got a case where Sony can make a few bucks with a film project. Conveniently, that goes over to the big screen. And same thing with an experiment that you can sacrifice some of the profits to the theaters if it's a character nobody's heard about yet, could become a household name later. So it's like these moves are more tactical than like creative or smart and things like that. Like it's definitely a practice with the Disney Plus shows anyway, where it is running more like a business than a universe.
Yeah.
That's my 2 cents, ultimately.
Well, yeah.
No, I completely agree because especially like the way things are going now, like Nifa and Angie brought up, it seems like it's getting more political in the sense of trying to appease and really pander towards bringing in a new audience, like just to be caught up with the times. With as much as I hate this word, but as much as I hate this word, they want to get the quote unquote woke people, which you can just say open-minded. It's the same thing. But they want to get the woke people on their side because the kids are the ones that know how to use social media more than the old people do. So they're the more talkative ones. So obviously they're going to be paying attention more. But that's not exactly how it works. When you have
wait
people,
for the younger generation to be the edgy one, and then they'll be attacking the older ones, which will be the woke generation. It's gonna just totally capsize on itself once that hits. Oh, it's gonna just destroy.
The internet was a mistake.
oh yeah.
Hayao Miyazaki, the inventor. The inventor of what? Everything. He's a time lord
corporate now because I think the people that are in control of all we have to do is like slap the name Marvel onto something and people instantly watch it, but that's not how that works. I mean, Disney does the same thing with every single property that it has, but slowly I think they're gonna realize at some point to where it's too late that the Disney name doesn't always mean watchable. It's definitely not today. It's definitely not going to be within the next 10 years because they worked their ass off trying to make their name the number one marketing title in the world. But
even if they have a bomb or two, they'll be like, okay, well, that doesn't work. This will though.
Yeah, forget about it. Don't worry about it, guy. It never happened.
When I forget that one time when I was working at Starbucks and one of these girls, like,
Oh, that.
yeah, just like about the
Such
same
a
age as
Disney
me,
file.
and like she's like, "Oh, so are you gonna see the Lion King remake?" Like, no, I cannot stand any of the Disney remakes, and they're not
Yeah.
even in the so bad it's funny to watch thing. And she said, "Oh, I know it's gonna be bad, but I'm still gonna watch it anyway because I love anything Disney." Like she just flat out said it. And I'm like, okay,
You
you're the reason why we
slave.
keep getting crappy
Yeah.
movies.
Now that is someone I would call an NPC.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They are just going with it, not even thinking. They are robots.
Yeah.
No,
The
I
fact that she
definitely.
flat out said that she knew it was going to be bad, but was still gonna watch it anyway because it's Disney. And I'm like, wow, like you're not even thinking of going and watching it just in the ironic way. Like that is consumerism at its peak there.
I
When you're
know,
fully
right?
aware of it and you don't care, you just want to keep consuming the media. Like, wow,
Well, yeah.
it's kind of astounding. Then I didn't really want to talk.
Well,
about it.
the moment I lost faith in humanity with Hollywood and movies was the Emoji Movie
Oh,
over
God.
Popeye.
Oh gosh.
Oh, wait. Emoji movie over what?
Popeye.
Fine.
They were going to make.
It's going to be a Popeye movie directed by Gendy Tartakovsky.
The guy
Oh,
that's
Popeye?
Yeah, it's going to be directed by him, the guy who made Samurai Jack.
Oh, no.
and there was
And they said, no, we'll go with the emojis. That's the moment where I went, okay.
and like they made like a trailer, like a little teaser trailer for it. And
Yeah.
it's really good.
It was, they did a little pilot, test animation.
Yeah,
And of course, Tom Kenny is Popeye.
That is a big shame. That
And
is.
it is great.
wasted
It's a
opportunity.
great little short.
Uh-huh.
Like, it's animated really well. Like, Olive Oil, it's animated perfectly.
That is a shame. That
Oh,
is
yeah,
like.
especially when you look at
That
it,
is.
it's beautiful.
Wow.
It's
That is.
beautiful animation, too. It's gorgeous.
I gotta go now for sorry.
Oh.
Thanks for joining us,
We also
Victor.
have to get
Good
going
time.
For, we have some auditions to go to.
All right.
Goodbye.
We'll see you guys later.
thank you for this chance to like speak the 2 cents because I know it's something that like any criticism for like Marvel stuff as of late, seems to really just get dismissed as only the diehard comic fans are complaining or only
Yes, white men.
Yeah. So, and if anyone has any like concerns about me with my dislike of that generic mixed strong blend women trope, or talking about the POC thing, I am a woman and a person of color, so stop that nonsense right now.
She's a Mexican.
Yeah,
Her mom's from Mexico.
Well, thanks a bunch for coming on, guys, and we
Yes,
hope to
thank
see
you.
you again in the future.
All right. Boy.
See you, Victor.
Bye.
Okay.
And then there were
looks
2.
like there were only 2.
Oh goodness,
No
the only
one else.
survivors. Everyone else died.
Yeah, like maybe there'll be like a Superman character that comes in later. That,
Of
gives
course.
a few cents. Yeah.
Always gotta
Okay.
have that Superman character.
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, I would say Captain Marvel, but nobody likes Captain. Everybody would objectively like go with Superman over Captain Marvel. And what's worse is that people say that the Justice League was bad, but I'm pretty sure they would still go with that Superman over Captain.
True, yeah. Alright.
But yeah, you've been mostly quiet since we got the people talking. What do you think about their opinions? And when we talk about their opinions, I'll let you go on with your opinion overall, and then I'll get into my part of it, because that's exactly what everybody's here for, right?
Yeah,
Right?
Exactly, yeah, the only reason that I watch these videos. Is that I thought they had an interesting take. It was really cool hearing their opinions as non-comic book fans, or well, people that really don't have too much experience with comic books. So I thought that was cool, hearing their thoughts and stuff, and seeing, sort of the MCU as a big business, which of course it is. Money is one of the biggest things that probably goes into all of the planning and stuff of the MCU too. Like, oh, what can make us the most money and stuff like that. And now they have like the Marvel name, they sort of have brand recognition as well as, of course, trust with their audience. So it's like, oh, they can start experimenting with different things too. Like, oh, Shang-Chi, you've never heard of this guy before, but here he is, he's a cool character. But most people, if you go up to someone on the street and ask, hey, who's Shang-Chi, before the movie was even announced, they probably wouldn't know. But now it's like, exactly. But now it's like, oh, Shang-Chi, yeah, man, I saw that movie. It's on Disney Plus. It's in the theater. I saw the trailer. Stuff like that. That people are like Shang-Chi. So so yeah, it's interesting seeing that. And they had a lot of interesting points too. I gotta say though, the whole woke thing, I can totally understand where that's coming from, and I can see it more prevalent. But I gotta say, Marvel honestly has always been pretty quote unquote woke. With Captain America as sort of propaganda even before he went into the war. Like, hey guys, we should go to war with these people. And of course, they got the X-Men dealing with the civil rights movements, as well as, of course, the war on drugs handled in Spider-Man, and different things like that, or drug problems in the 80s handled in Spider-Man with Harry and stuff like that. But I feel like it's always been a big thing, even with 9/11 as well, dealing with that in the comic books too. So yeah, I feel like that's it is pretty prevalent now, and it seemed to sort of like die down a little bit when the MCU started, but now it's back. So it's interesting seeing that though. That yeah, it's become more prevalent these days, but it's always sort of been there in the history of Marvel.
Well, I wouldn't exactly say like that early on that Marvel was what you would consider quote unquote woke. I would say it's just more self-aware, because like with the stuff with like Captain America being in like little plays and propaganda acts, it's like to give you the idea that although it's funny like putting out like all the propaganda that was back in like the 30s to 40s to 50s. It was really just to explain that he was wasting his potential and that he felt that.
Oh, exactly.
Which is, I think was a good use. But like nowadays, like the stuff that you would like consider like quote unquote woke or just really just open minded is just like adding in like a whole bunch, like changing the sex or the color of a character just to pander to the audience because they're demanding that a certain character look this way, or you have the opportunity to make someone look a certain way. But I mean, it doesn't really change the character for the better or for the worse. It doesn't change them like whatsoever. It's like I say like the Watcher in Marvel's What If. Like we've seen already that in Guardians of the Galaxy 2, we've seen what those species look like. So it's like three of them just listening to whatever Stan Lee has to say. Yeah, and then they change it in What If to attempt to make the Watcher look like a combination of the Watcher mixed with Jeffrey Wright. Even though it doesn't look like Jeffrey Wright, it just looks like some bald black guy with glowing eyes. It's like, well, what's the point? And it's like, it's voice acting. He's voicing our cartoon. It doesn't really... It just seems like they're just trying too hard to bring in an audience, a new audience, rather than... to appeal to the sense of imagination that comic books can bring, because obviously their biggest audience that they're going to be attracting is the people that read the comic books or that watch the cartoons or the television shows from much earlier on. But it doesn't seem like they seem to realize that, or they don't favor them. And as to a reason why, I haven't the slightest idea as to why they wouldn't do that, to try to just appeal to them. I think they're just trying to make themselves look good to the point to where they can just be, I don't want to say self-indulgent or egotistical, but it definitely feels like that's the direction that they're going in. Just so, because like there's when my friend Nephi, he brought up the reference of Nerdrotic, like the MCU.
Oh yeah.
I did see a few of his episodes on the MCU, and he brings up a good theory that I'm pretty sure is possible. He says like they want you to believe that they're not racist, they're not bigots, or everything, that they're perfect because they don't want to be criticized like whatsoever. If they call people or they insult people by saying that they are like people of specific hate, they can't be criticized. So they would just be like the winners of consumerism, to where like everybody just takes whatever they just throw out on the table and everybody will eat it up and they can't complain about it and they just get money. which I feel like that's the direction that they're really going in right now. Which I'm not saying that you're wrong in saying like that they weren't open-minded before, but it seems like they were just more self-aware rather than trying to be quote-unquote open-minded about how they direct and how they cast and how they edit and what kind of stories they want to write to the consumer.
Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah, I feel like that's true. They're perhaps maybe going a little too far and sort of trying to show themselves as, very open-minded and stuff, when in reality it's not exactly just for that purpose, but for other purposes too, to make their image look better. Yeah, I can see what you mean. Yeah.
Yeah, because like if you take like a Star Wars, for example, like the latest like a sequel Star Wars, and also the Star Wars of Rogue One and Han Solo, they really stick by like the strong female character, which I'm currently like watching this video like talk. It's okay. Don't. I'm not saying that you should go out and just hate everything, but like the video is about why 3 years later the Last Jedi sucks. But I'm not trying to say that this is from a place of I don't want to say hate because that's used too much, but like from a very negative perspective. But like the guy who's making the video, he brings up the idea of like the female character, because nowadays like they're trying to make him like either too strong or too perfect, and Rey is like the epitome of like the perfect character, like to the point to where they're calling her a Mary Sue. And like if you don't know what a Mary Sue is, and Mary Sue is basically Superman, but imagine that he doesn't have any conflict, he doesn't have any problems to overcome whatsoever, which is basically conflict. He doesn't have any weaknesses. Everything is handed to him. Everybody likes him. And he gets the job done every single time without breaking a sweat. That is boring. Which I'm not saying Superman is a boring character. He's not, if you actually do research on him and actually read the comics. Because there are people that don't like him, especially like people that are supposed to be labeled as the good guys, especially like Batman in his early years. The military, the U.S. military does not like him because they see him as a threat, because he can just turn at any moment. There are certain villains that think that can be considered anti-heroes, or they think that they're doing the right thing because their goal is to stop Superman. That doesn't make him overpowered. He has conflict to where people disagree with him. But you have someone like Rey, to where she's literally given everything, especially like in the Force and superpowers, and then also weapons such as a lightsaber, and then everybody just seems to like her except for the antagonist. And she just overcomes every single problem either quickly or almost without breaking a sweat. That's a problem.
Oh,
and,
exactly. Yeah.
And that's what's being shown in a lot of Marvel movies nowadays, and I think that is disgusting. Especially like with Black Widow. They have I know I'm proning on, I'll make this quick. But like with Black Widow, they tried to make it to where like Black Widow and almost every Black Widow that is made by like the shadow organization that makes these Black Widows are either invincible, they're overly smart, or everything, and they don't have to really work for anything. It's just that they were damaged and that they overcame it at some point, which wasn't really written upon. But the point is that they don't really have to work hard. You just have to get over the people who hurt you, and that's really it. Especially when like they make like the main villain basically Harvey Weinstein in a floating ship.
Oh man. Yeah, that's true. Yeah, that conflict really makes an interesting story, and it makes you relate to the character too. Like, say we've got like these super cool action heroes, but they also still have relatability because they get hurt, and they deal with emotional things and stuff like that. Like say John McClane or Indiana Jones or stuff like that. We see them. They're not just bulletproof. They get hurt too. You know, like John McClane's walking without any shoes on. He gets, you know, cuts on his feet. You know, just got shot.
God,
stuff like
yeah.
that. Like he just gets the hell beaten out of him, but he still stands there. He's still alive, and he saves the day in the end. But
Welcome to the party, pal!
but yeah, it's when a character just is given everything and it just doesn't feel like they earned it, or it's just like they don't really go for any hardship. It's like they're just perfect. There's like you said, like Superman. There's like a god. They're just nothing is bad is gonna happen to them. They're perfectly fine. So it's hard to relate to that. Whereas even with people like say Spider-Man, where he has these amazing abilities, but we can still relate to him because he goes through everyday life. You know, he has to pay rent. He has to look after his aunt and stuff like that, and has to try to hold a job while he's being Spider-Man and things like that we can relate to. Well, I guess we can't exactly relate to being Spider-Man because we dress up as Spider-Man, but just that. Just the relatability is really important to a character. Really keeps you interested in the character to see whatever it is, to see where the story goes, as well as really makes you care for the character on an emotional level that has a lot of depth and really adds to the stakes of a story. Like say if we didn't care about Tony Stark, if he dies in the end, it's like, oh, there goes Tony. Oh well, so it's important to have that.
Yeah, especially like to have flaws. I think that's like that is the most important thing for a character when you go into writing. Like I would recommend if you're a writer, or if you're starting to write, or if you're people like Ryan Johnson who think that they are above everything and can write everything perfectly, if you're going to write a character, take a Dungeons and Dragons sheet and then start giving them limits, and then write down everything that they have, either like within like their powers, their tools, their weapons, their personalities. That's a good start right there, because if you do not have a character without limits or can resist too many things, people will start to notice, and it will break the illusion that it will break the illusion that you've already said was there. Like for example, like in Black Widow, they make it to where every girl, almost like every girl that's in the main cast of Black Widow, is a super spy. Great. Right. They don't have any powers. All right. So they're just very smart and they have to rely on their wit. But there are multiple instances to where Black Widow and her sister or everybody else that's not Red Guardian should be dead. Because they do not. Because they get into situations where a car fumbles and like two of them are in it and it falls into a subway.
And they're all good.
I'm not talking about the restaurant. I'm talking about the subway or like a train station, and the car is decimated and they walk out like with a little limp. Or parts of where they fall down from a building. And I kid you not, Black Widow, it's comical. Because like she hit like a whole bunch of air conditioning units, like a bonk, 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 and then she strikes a superhero pose on the ground, almost like she's trying to play it off. It's like that does not help you put up an illusion, and it just like tries too hard to like put up like the thing I mentioned before, like with the strong female character. It's like you're trying to sell us an illusion. But you're saying that this person is perfect in every single way. Superpowers are not, and they barely have anything to overcome. It's just not gonna. You just can't get yourself invested into it. It's like, what are you trying to do? Are you trying to sell a message? Are you trying to sell us on a fantasy that we can indulge ourselves in? It's just like. I don't know what they're doing.
Right.
Obviously, someone's not paying attention. Especially when you have a cinematic universe this big, to where there are a bunch of TV shows that you've never heard about that are playing on Hulu, Disney Plus, Netflix, and other streaming mediums. Like, it's really big. There has to be someone who's monitoring every single one of these things. Otherwise it's just not going to work. And I think we're now seeing that all crumble because
too much stuff.
Someone's not taking care of it.
Yeah, that's true. You gotta have a firm guiding hand on it to make sure things make sense within the universe and also character-wise too. Yeah, because like they had a good sense of control with it, like in phase 1 and phase 2, because Kevin Feige was just, I believe,
he was focusing on like just the movies.
Yeah.
And like so you have a clear schedule on which movie's coming out. Like in Phase 2, we're gonna have Iron Man 3, Thor 2, Captain America 2, and then we're gonna have Guardians of the Galaxy, then Avengers, and then Ant-Man. Great. Just focus on these ones. But now it's all scattered everywhere.
Yeah.
To where there are things that even it almost seems like the person who follows these movies and the properties religiously is going to miss at least one thing.
True.
And because they're not advertising these properties well, and like someone's not having a good control on these properties, it's more than likely going to start like crumbling within like the next few years, like crumbling to the point to where everybody starts to notice, because there are definitely some people that are like, oh, Marvel has a great hand on these, like this is going so well. It's great, it worked for the past 10 years. Doesn't mean it's going to continue being the same way if everything is branching out like the multiverse in the end of Loki.
True.
Especially since they're bringing in the multiverse. That is,
it's gonna get crazy.
That's gonna be nuts.
Oh.
And I don't think it's gonna be for the better either, because I was really optimistic when I saw that in the end of Loki, to where like oh great, like well, now they have like all these stories, but like you see like something like with What If, right? Like Victor mentioned, like that they're not paying service or they're disrespecting the TV shows. If you watch What If, they only bring in characters that have been in the movies.
Yeah, that's true.
Barely anybody in the TV shows, being Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., WandaVision. I mean, WandaVision counts because Wanda and Vision were in the movies.
There you go.
Falcon and Winter Soldier, they were in the movies. But nothing like Quake, nothing like Ghost Rider, nothing like Cloak and Dagger, nothing like Runaways, nothing like Daredevil, or even Shang-Chi or the Eternals, even though that was already scheduled to come out later on. They didn't decide to try to like bring in like new characters that might get people engaged or invested into characters that would eventually come out, say like a Moon Knight or She-Hulk, that would have their own TV shows. It's like they're only sticking with the stuff that people are comfortable with, and that's like the show that you take risk with.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it is.
Yeah, it's like, what are you doing? It's like, why are you not? It's like, this is the show to experiment with. Like, who is messing up here?
Yeah. Oh, exactly. Like, that is the experiment show.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, but I've got to say, to get back to the, I guess like the overall question, I guess, of like the movies versus
Sorry,
the.
that,
Oh
that
no!
That grown on like way longer than I anticipated.
No, it's good stuff. But I gotta say, like, it's really cool seeing. Of course, back in the day, like the shows were very, they were connected, but they were very like Victor said, disregarded. Where we have these references to what happened. Like you've got throughout the Netflix series, you've got like references to the Battle of New York and stuff like that. And then of course in Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. you have references to like, of course S.H.I.E.L.D. falling and stuff like that. I referenced Age of Ultron, Sokovia falling out of the sky, stuff like that. That's like, oh yeah, MCU stuff. But you never hear like anything. Like the shows happen, but it doesn't seem like they actually affect the overall continuity of the MCU, which is interesting. Which I gotta say is nice now, at least, because we have these MCU, like very much MCU connected shows. It's very clear that they're still up in the air if the other shows in the past are connected. Like Agent Carter recently got confirmed to be connected. There's like a encyclopedia, Marvel MCU whatever encyclopedia that includes some Agent Carter stuff or whatever. But like the Netflix series. Are they connected? Like, there's still kind of up in the air, really. Like, some, there's clearly that it was meant to be connected, but at the moment, like, I don't know, there's no references to them in the movies or anything, or really anywhere so far, for now, at least, But, so it's a little confusing at the moment. But it's nice to have, like, shows that are actually, like, 100% connected to the MCU. Like, there's no doubt about it that they are connected whatsoever. And I gotta say, that's, to sort of respectfully disagree with Victor here, that he's not here to defend his point, so I'm sorry, Victor, if you're watching this. I was waiting for him to go, and then I could launch. But I gotta say, the movies, quote-unquote experiments, but also I feel like the shows are experiments too. Like, they're doing things that the MCU really hasn't done too much. Like, there are character moments in the MCU, of course, but I feel like they're expanding upon these characters we don't really see too much of. Like, we see Bucky and Falcon a fair amount, but we don't really get, like, any stories sort of centered on them. Like, well, I guess Winter Soldier. Well, I guess it's not exactly, like, Bucky is sort of like the MacGuffin of the story, but he's not exactly the main, like, character of the movie. He's not, like, the one taking the lead. Of course, it's Captain America. But we see these characters a lot, and they have their moments in the movies, especially like Wanda and Vision. We see their romance sort of blossom in Civil War, and then carry on throughout Infinity War, and we see the aftermath of it in Endgame and stuff like that. But they tell these very personal stories, like the Wanda having to deal with the loss of Vision, and it's pretty solid towards the end. For better or for worse, the shows they experiments with their characters and give us some more personal stories, as well as, of course, more sort of quote-unquote MCU type stories, like these bigger stakes stories and stuff. But they still are perhaps a little more character-driven, perhaps, which is pretty fun to see. And we're seeing that, of course, recently with Hawkeye too, which I think is great. They're handling a lot of good stuff there. And it's a nice chance for them to tell these sort of longer-form stories about what happens after Endgame and stuff, like they're doing with the aftermath of it, and sort of taking it on a individual level, like showing the street level of like what's going on after the fact and what's going on with each individual characters, which is something that we may have not seen in like a movie with, because these guys are big characters and they're very loved, but they're not like the main focus of the movies usually. So I think it's nice to see that in the shows. I really do appreciate the shows, for better or for worse. There's some episodes that are perhaps a little iffy, but there's still some strong episodes too. Like, each series I feel like has had some pretty strong episodes, despite maybe some of them not having as strong episodes. But yeah,
those are pretty good points. Do you think that there are certain like TV shows that are like on Disney Plus or that have come before Disney Plus that probably should have been like a movie and vice versa?
That is a good question. I gotta say, like, we were talking earlier with the Eternals. It's really hard to make a movie that's sort of an ensemble movie. It can work, like, say, with Guardians, but there's definitely fewer Guardians than there are Eternals. So I feel like that definitely is a good example of, like, even though it's like, what was it, like 2 hours and 30 something minutes, like, I feel like it could have even been longer, and would have perhaps been better as a series to sort of give us more time with each of these characters and give them more of a chance, because it does handle the characters fairly well, but at the same time there's still could have been more to really flesh them out and to make us care about them even more. And then I don't know, I feel like most of the movies generally feel pretty well paced. It feels like they work as a movie, but the series, like if they were crammed into a movie length, that maybe it could have like cut off some of the fat of the series, but it just wouldn't feel like the pacing would work as well, I guess. So I feel like for the most part, though, there's not really too many examples I can think of. Like seeing an Endgame miniseries, something like it's even longer than 3 hours would be pretty cool. But I feel like the movie gets the job done. So yeah, I feel like everything seems to fit pretty well as what they are, except for maybe Eternals. But even then, I'm willing to give it a pass. I think it works pretty alright as a movie.
That's pretty interesting here. So would you say that was your 2 cents, or were you just
that's pretty much all I got. Yeah, it's great to see them focus more on the series now. That's in the past, like Victor said, very disregard. They're just like, oh, there are these things. There's more stories. Are they connected? I don't know. Here they are. They're here. It's for you to watch, and they really really did feel like sort of served as a blueprint of what's happening right now, of like these shows, like how to run them and stuff, which is interesting. But yeah, it's sort of left behind in the dust right now. So I hope they get their time to shine. Because yeah, like you said too, even with What If, like it's very focused on the MCU itself, like the movies. Even though there are characters that come from some of the shows, like of course we see Agent Carter, but she's in the MCU in the movies first, and Phil Coulson started off in the movies too, so not exactly connected per se, or referencing Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. and Agent Carter. So yeah, it's kind of sad to see them get left behind in the dust still, but I'm glad to see that at least they are making more series and that are definitely going to be connected more to the movies instead of just disregarded once again, because it's been happening for years. Like ever since it started back in 2013 with Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., it just didn't feel like they mattered too much, even though they were great, but just didn't feel like they affected the universe at all. So I'm glad to see that at least has changed.
Yeah, that's a shame too, because like Agents of Shield, like they mostly, from what I remember, I could be getting this wrong, but it seemed like they were like still cleaning up after like Captain America and the Winter Soldier, especially with Hydra.
Oh,
like
exactly.
where Hydra is hiding after such an event, because you have such a big organization as Shield and Hydra, they're not going to go down quietly.
No.
No matter how loud of a bang you make to expose them, there's still going to be like underground workings and whatnot. That's Hydra, like at its core. It's like it's always embedded in everything.
Yeah.
Because this is what Hydra does. It's like the secret society, like the evil secret society. But it's just such a shame, like when you have like such big topics like that, especially like that attribute it, or they're like basically like spin-offs of the movie, because like I think it was like the second season of Agents of Shield, to where they have to like figure out who's on Shield's side and who's on Hydra's side.
I think so.
And this all happened because of the events of Captain America: The Winter Soldier.
Yeah.
And this stuff doesn't get touched upon, which is, I can understand it from perspective of like spreading out like properties, kind of like a comic book. But like when you have such a big property that spins off into a show, basically, I mean, it's not really a spin-off, but like the idea of it and like the story of it goes into a different show. I think it's something that has to be addressed at some point down the line. Otherwise, it's like, it just seems like you're just trying to connect certain universes, but you're also half-assing it.
Oh, exactly. Yeah, like they're connected, but how connected are they exactly? Yeah, so that's a good point.
It's like it almost seems like they're treating Agents of Shield as damage control, which to a certain extent they are.
Yeah.
But they shouldn't be treated like that. Is when they're treated like superheroes as the main show.
Yeah.
Like these guys are like the go-to guys to solve problems, and they should be. And it's like what Victor said, they should be treated with more respect, especially when they're like going up into the ranks of being actual superheroes like Quake, or they discover people like Ghost Rider, or the Absorbing Man. Even though he's not a superhero, he's a villain.
Yeah.
But they are still like bringing in like big titles or big names into the show, and then people are, and this is going under people's radar about it, because they're not doing a good job of actually connecting or advertising these other properties.
Oh, exactly. Yeah, it sort of feels like they gave up at a certain point. Like they're towards the beginning of the series, we see like cameos from other people in the MCU. Like I think Nick Fury might be in at least one episode.
Yeah.
Agent Hill, I think, is possibly in it. Lady Civ is in one episode, but then eventually it's like it just falls off into oblivion.
Yeah, because I specifically remember those. I saw the Lady Sif episode because I heard that Lady Sif was going to be in it.
Yeah.
And I saw the episodes with Nick Fury in them.
Yeah, that's cool.
But they just treat them like they're just like Saturday morning cartoons.
Oh, exactly. Yeah, that's a good way to put it.
That's very unfair of them.
Yeah.
And like I would expect that the other shows that are on Disney Plus, that are like Disney Plus originals, would get more treatment just because like they're telling people to go and use their own app rather than like sharing like with ABC, which is now Freeform.
Oh, exactly.
Or Hulu, because they didn't make Hulu, or Netflix because they didn't make Netflix. So you get like, you ignore, or like the general audience would ignore stuff like Runaways or Cloak and Dagger, Daredevil, Luke Cage, Jessica Jones, stuff like that, because they didn't make that on their own app, which they made. So I'm not sure if it's just a legal standpoint, but it feels more to me, it's more of like a personal issue. It's like, just because we didn't make this and we didn't make it on this thing that we made, we don't care about it.
It's like, it's not in our family.
Yeah, and it seems more apparent like with like properties of like, say, Star Wars, because if you've been to the park, what is it? It's the one. It's Disney World. It's the part of Disney World that does like all the movies.
Oh yeah, Hollywood Studios or whatever it's called. Yeah.
There you go.
Yeah,
Hollywood
yeah,
Studios.
yeah.
if you've ever been to Hollywood Studios, they do like all of like the minimum stuff of like showing like the Millennium Falcon and the Cantina and presenting like blue and green milk, right?
yeah.
Like, yeah, but that's the stuff of like the original trilogy. All the mascots that you see, like the people that are dressed up to take pictures with the customers, is Kylo Ren, Rey, Finn,
exactly.
all the stuff that's coming from the sequel trilogy. But you never see anything from the prequels. You never see people that are dressed up from the prequels, if they can help it, or the original trilogy, which is, I would say, terrible, because everybody wants to go to Star Wars Land to see Luke Skywalker or Princess Leia or Han Solo or Chewbacca, and like the only reason why they have Chewbacca in there is because they made him a main protagonist. So it's like you're really gonna get rid of like Ewoks or Grogu or like especially like the Mandalorian. You don't see the Mandalorian
right?
at the park, and the reason why is because they want to display the characters that they made the most of, like the ones that they can pretty much advertise as there's them, the ones that they made themselves.
Exactly.
It's kind of like a childish point of view of like writing a character into like a story that you don't own, or trying your best to like say, it's like, see, mommy, I made this all on my own. It just seems like they're playing favorites to themselves just to give themselves the most attention, which I can understand from a marketing perspective. But there, at some point, when you have something that is so large, a property that is so large, you have to show more of it. Otherwise, people are not going to get invested into it.
Oh, exactly. Yeah, that's a great point. That I know with Marvel, there's some sort of legal constraints with Netflix. I think recently the contract that they had, like I think they had to wait like a few years after the final season after it was canceled. I think that's done with now, which is good. But yeah, it's really interesting. Like, that's a great point too. Like with like Star Wars especially, like they're just like, hey, these characters we made, you guys love them, right? Like there are guys right here. You know, these other characters that were in the past, that's pretty cool. You know, good legacy, I suppose. But this is our Star Wars right here. So I totally see what you mean there. That's definitely does feel like that.
If you look at it too, because like the Phase 1 was made by Paramount, because that was the company who just had it at the time, and then I'm not sure if they had to, maybe someone put it at gunpoint. That's probably what happened. But eventually, like after the first Avengers film, I think it was after.
I think Iron Man 3. I think it's still Paramount.
Yeah,
after that. Yeah.
Iron Man 3 is when it ended being owned by Paramount.
Yeah.
And then everything became Marvel Studios, which is owned by Disney now. If those characters did not work at all, and the MCU went on, you would not see those characters. You would not see people dressed up as those characters to take pictures with customers at Disneyland or Disney World.
Exactly.
Because it's not because they didn't do well so much. It's because they were under Paramount.
Yeah, they're not.
That's my theory.
Yeah.
But because they did so well, because it made a lot of money, you cannot go to a place that has Marvel and not expect to see Iron Man, Thor, Captain America, the Hulk, Hawkeye, Black Widow. You cannot go anywhere without seeing those guys, and they have to do that because that is the most popular thing. Besides, like Spider-Man. If only Spider-Man did well, and like those other guys didn't, that's all you see. All you see was Spider-Man, even though they shared the rights with Sony.
Yeah.
But if Spider-Man didn't do well, they wouldn't
Goodbye,
do it.
Spider-Man.
They would only do like Captain Marvel if it did really good. Only Black Panther if it did really good. Even if they didn't do really good, they would still do like the pandering thing to where it's like trying to reach out to people that are trying to be like more productive in sex and race. Yeah. But it just seems like it's the point I'm getting at. It just seems like it's all corporate, but to the point to where it's very selfish.
Exactly. Like their stuff. Yeah.
To where they're really only thinking about themselves. To where like they only want to be associated with themselves, and not anybody else. It's why you don't see a lot of Hulk movies.
Oh,
Like everybody loves the Hulk, but the only way you can see the Hulk is in other characters' movies, like say the Avengers or Thor.
Yeah, exactly.
And the reason why they don't do solo Hulk movies is because Universal still has those rights.
Exactly.
The only reason, and like the only reason why Spider-Man is so popular is because they know Spider-Man is like the number one superhero that everybody goes to, and they're willing to make deals with Sony because they know they're going to get more than their money back. But they know that Hulk is not enough to sell Hulk on their own without having to share money.
Yeah, that is very true. Yeah.
So it just seems to me it's just all very self-relating.
Yeah.
And when it like comes to marketing and everything, which it shouldn't really be about, because like if you look at DC, they never sold any of their characters because they never had to, so they don't have this problem.
That's true.
But you see like people like with like Warner Brothers with Soho, no, not Soho, Toho, with all the people that own like almost like all the monster movies under Godzilla, right? Like I heard a rumor that Toho wants to bring Godzilla back, but it seems like they're fine with it because they already established like stuff with like Kong, and they're fine with like going on with like their Kong, and so far it just seems like they never really had too much of an argument of like what kind of movies they want to present Godzilla with. You have his first movie, you have Kong's movie, then you have Godzilla's second movie with his other monsters, and then you have their Kong, Godzilla versus you have Godzilla versus Kong, and they never seem to really. I haven't done a lot of digging, but it seems like they never really had any problem with it because it was like, okay, all these people want to see is big monsters. Let's just give the people what they want.
The big monsters, exactly.
And like one of my personal favorites out of like the pick is probably Godzilla King of the Monsters, because it's just giant monster. You're just giving people what they want. Sure, like the humans are a bit of a chore to like go through, but they gave what the people wanted to see. They wanted to see a giant dinosaur that blows a blue beam out of his mouth, a giant butterfly, a giant pterodactyl, and a three-headed dragon that fights the giant dinosaur. Like, they gave the people what they want, versus the Disney that gives people what they think they want because they haven't figured out that comic books can be more than just corporate pandering.
Oh, exactly. Yeah. I think you hit you got it there perfectly. Yeah. So what do you think about all of this? The movies versus TV.
It's stupid. It should end right now.
Cancel everything right away.
No, in theory, this could work. I mean, any idea that you have that's ever made, any story that you can come up with, it can work in theory. However, I don't think Disney really takes enough of the time to actually work on those stories, because they're like pumping these out like almost like lunch boxes, or I'd say probably like candy. I'd say candy's probably like the better comparison, because they have a schedule, which is understandable. However, it doesn't mean you have to do it every single year. Especially, you don't have to do this every single month, because we're now getting we at this point we would have been getting 4 MCU movies within a year.
That's pretty crazy.
Just because you can make a movie within a year doesn't mean you should. Because, like, a lot of people got upset about this, but it's something I agree to an extent to, is when people were asking Martin Scorsese, like, what do you think about the Marvel movies? And he's like, they're like roller coaster rides, but they're not good movies. And it's like I would argue at a certain extent, like, to what a good movie is and what a good story can be. But I do agree that most of the Marvel movies are basically like amusement park rides. Because at the minimum. You just need superheroes, explosions, fight scenes. That's about it. And they nail that every single time they make a Marvel movie. But it doesn't mean that they can't be more. Especially like with the TV shows. And like the more part seems like to be nowadays pandering. In the sense of just trying to make themselves look good. By making themselves look like that they are open-minded to everything. Because like before, I believe Bob Iger came in, there was another guy. I can't remember his name at the moment. But like I remember that he was saying like wait, do you know his name?
You mean like as like a showrunner, like runner of the TV MCU stuff?
He was like the
Oh,
main
you mean
producer.
Jeff Loeb?
Is that his name?
Yeah, Jeff. I think that's who you're talking about. Yeah, Jeff Loeb, I believe.
Okay, yeah, I guess this was the guy who was saying like a Captain Marvel movie wouldn't work, or a Black Panther movie wouldn't work, and that's why he was like only doing like Iron Man, Thor, and Captain America. And like some people, from what I heard, I don't know the full story, but from what I've heard, that he was like a bit of a bit racist, maybe a bigot, but I don't really know. But looking at it today, I'm not sure if it was coming from a place of segregation or maybe a corporate practice. Because if you look at Captain Marvel and Black Panther, the movies, they're, I would say, mediocre or less than mediocre. Because Black Panther, he had a better story arc in Captain America: Civil War.
Oh yeah,
to where he overcame the need or like the selfish want of getting revenge on somebody that was actually completely in the wrong. He overcame what he said was in the movie, like anger was consuming me and now it's consuming them and I don't want to be consumed by that anymore. And he overcomes that, which was great. But in Black Panther, it almost seems like it's like, well, you're officially king now. What are you gonna do? And he's like, I don't really know. He's like, this other guy, this cousin of mine wants to be king now, and I don't really like his ideas. Which is weird because in the end, if you think about it, Killmonger actually, or Golden Jaguar, he actually wins because the point was to expand. I mean, at a certain extent,
that's true.
To expand Wakanda. His idea was to take over the world, but the idea was to reveal Wakanda to the world and expand, which is a good message. But it doesn't seem like that was his motivation in the beginning, because he does call out his father about being wrong, about not taking care of the world or not building bridges. But it doesn't seem like that's what he was looking to do in the entire movie. And then you have Captain Marvel, who is kind of a stuck-up bitch, who thinks she can do everything, because she's told that she's powerful and that she has superpowers. And like the point, I think, was to overcome your emotions. However, they're also putting in a subplot of her always getting back up like Spider-Man. But it doesn't seem to work, especially when the actor doesn't give off any emotional reactions and can't seem to choose whether or not to control her emotions or always get back up, because she can't seem to act better than a plank of wood.
Yeah, it's like it just doesn't. None of it just comes across like it's just sort of doesn't fit together. Like you just feel like two different things that didn't really collide. Like perhaps if it was handled better, could have worked better. But it just feels like just two random things just put together, sort of.
Yeah, it just seems like to me like just because now these other characters, Captain America, Iron Man, and Thor, have worked. Oh, we can just do whatever we want now. Yeah. And it just seems like because of, if they had that mentality, which I'm pretty sure is more than likely, they just kind of given up on literate integrity, as in like they don't really have to write too hard. They don't have to work too hard into writing characters and writing story. which I don't want to believe is the truth, because there are some good ideas that are put in there, but it definitely seems like what Angie, Nephi, and Victor were saying was like it was starting to get too formulaic.
Yeah.
Especially like with Doctor Strange, I like the movie a lot.
Oh.
However, I recognize it's very formulaic. I think that the thing that sticks out the most for me is like the fact that Doctor Strange, out of everybody in the MCU, doesn't really fight the last main boss, which I would say Caecilius was like the main antagonist, but like the guy who's running the show is Dormammu. But it's the fact he doesn't really fight him; he just annoys him to get what he wants, and it works.
It does, yeah.
And I think that's what really makes Doctor Strange really unique in a writer's perspective of the movie, not the character, but not just the character itself, but like just for the movie itself. It's like he doesn't fight him, he just annoys him, and nobody else has done that, because everybody Spider-Man, Iron Man, Thor, Guardians of the Galaxy. Guardians of the Galaxy, they distract him, but they still fight Ronan.
Yeah, true.
But everybody fights the main antagonist. But Doctor Strange just annoys him, but the rest of the story is very formulaic.
Yeah.
And it feels very similar, especially like in their humor too. It seems too similar.
Yeah.
And
yeah.
I think it just seems like to me like it's kind of like finding like the right religion. Like they found the one that everybody will just follow under. It's like the same formula that nobody questions because everybody just likes it. And it's like they don't have to try too hard about it.
Yeah, that's true. They do have like the sort of that sort of standard formula that they found that I feel like it's nice when they do switch things up too. Well, of course they do. New stuff is great. Fresh takes and stuff are done really well, are great. And that's a good point too with Doctor Strange. That it does feel pretty formulaic, but it does have some changes there. So I do appreciate that, even if they do continue to follow this formula. So I feel like it's sort of a given when you walk into an MCU movie, or even just like, I don't know, maybe even just a movie in general, depending on what it is, that you have an idea, like if you see the trailer, you have an idea who the hero is and who the main antagonist is, that you have a good feeling that if you go in there, you're probably going to see the hero win. It doesn't always happen, of course. Empire Strikes Back, and of course Infinity War, stuff like that. That's even Civil War, they don't actually win, really. So, there's some differences there in terms of the ending, but you can sort of already take a guess at what's going to happen in the end. It's just a matter of how they get there that I think, changing things wherever possible is nice to give us something new, that even if they use sort of the same sort of standard formula, that it's nice to see something different there too. Like, I feel like that can come with characters and whatever, or ways of doing things, that there's so many things have been tried, but maybe there's some other stuff that hasn't been tried, and giving the movie sort of its own unique flavor, even just the story in general, its own unique flavor. That's what I like so much about the Netflix series, especially, say, Daredevil, is that, of course, Daredevil is the main character, but you also have a lot of other interesting characters too that are really well handled, that feel like a great ensemble, that really gives the story its own unique sort of just voice and vision with the other characters there too. So it is nice to see like changes in the formula, as well as just like trying to spruce things up, and even if they're doing sort of the same thing, that they're trying some new things here and there to make that new thing not feel quite as used, which is nice. But it doesn't always happen sometimes.
Yeah, and that's the thing too. Like something that's been bugging me is like to where like the movies feel formulaic. It also seems like the TV shows seem like they were like starting to get political, but now it seems like they're kind of crossing over. I think somebody brought this up, but like I think it was Nephi or Angie, but like they brought up that the shows, they were getting political, but now the movies are too. And I think that's going to be like the new standard of formula, besides of like all the Marvel jokes and like the way that like the heroes take down the villains. It's that there's always going to be like a element of preaching to the audience that like you need to do better, especially like or a character that is always going to look like the hero just because of their gender. Which really bugs me, because like you have like a Falcon and Winter Soldier, where Falcon, who's now Captain America, like goes up to like the senators of like the United Nations and saying like, they have to do better. But when it comes to politics like that, especially like all around the world, it's not that simple.
Yeah,
especially when you're dealing with terrorists.
Yeah.
When you're dealing with terrorists, what he doesn't want to call terrorists, but they're definitely terrorists because they commit terrorist attacks on people to where a lot of people die that are innocents. And then you have like WandaVision, to where you have like the female lead who is supposed to be like the main protagonist, and just because they're the main protagonist doesn't mean that they're always the hero, because the protagonist in definition means like the person that the audience roots for. This doesn't necessarily mean they have to be the hero. It's kind of like Pitch Black with Vin Diesel playing Richard B. Riddick. He is one of the main protagonists. However, he is not the main hero, nor is he really a hero when he starts out in the movie. He's actually a bad guy. Like, he's a murderer. He is an escaped convict. However, we root for him because he is one of the main casts that helps push the story along. Now,
exactly.
with Wanda, she is objectively a bad guy. Although she's in grieving, and it's understandable, she's still committing acts, and she's aware of the people that she's torturing in the town that she's taking over. And yet, in the end, they try to treat her as the good guy, even though she's still causing pain and agony to a people that she's been a town that she's been holding hostage. Because when SWORD comes in, they're trying to get rid of Wanda and like the thing that's terrorizing this town, even though they're treated like the bad guys, because the guy who leads it is a man. And Wanda, I'm not saying that that's the only explanation as to why, but it seems too apparent, especially when they have like the new Captain Marvel like protecting her figurative kids with superpowers that also pose a threat to these civilians that are being held hostage. And then you have like Loki, which I don't really want to. I'm trying my best not to go into the direction of nerderotic, but I feel like he is right when he's like saying like the title of Loki is a bit misadvertising, because although what's her name, Sylvie is a Loki, and she doesn't go by Loki, she's still a Loki.
Yeah,
and it feels like it basically turns into her show when she's introduced. Why? Because she's the one because she's a woman, and she's the one who seems to drive the plot more, when our Loki, the one that we focus on, seems more like a buffoon.
Yeah.
And I think they're doing a better job of actually trying to balance that out so far from what I've seen from Hawkeye. Because you have Kate Bishop. She's more like the MCU Spider-Man. Like she's really good, but she fucks up a lot. And like she needs like somebody else's help, not just from a man's help. She needs a professional's help. And that's what a Spider-Man got. He got Iron Man's professional help as a superhero. In the second one, he got, even though he didn't want to be a part of it, he got he got Shield's help from being a professional superhero, and what he thought was a professional superhero from Mysterio.
Yeah, exactly.
But the point is that he's getting help because he's not perfect, and neither is Kate Bishop, and that's why she needs Clint Barton's help, because he's a professional at being a spy and a superhero. And I think they started to realize where they were starting to annoy their audience by having Hawkeye mentor her. And I kind of hope that they continue on with that. But it seems like to me like what the main focus is right now is to really just pass on the torch of Hawkeye, the title Hawkeye, to Kate Bishop.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
However, it does seem like they're going in the right direction of like not hating him, Hawkeye, just because he's a man, but like hate him for like the decisions that he's made as Ronin. Like I haven't seen the third episode yet, so I don't know if they really touch more into Ronin's past choices. But if they get more into it to where he regrets it, and then like it shows that he's made a lot more enemies, as being Ronin rather than Hawkeye, that's great writing. That's great. Oh. That's the stuff that I want to see because it shows an advance in the character to where he reverts back to being what he once was. And I think that they're improving with that. But right now, if they keep going in the direction that they're going to where they're trying to add in as much diversity as possible in stuff like Eternals, and also trying to make like the super big girl boss for girl power, they're just not going to succeed with this property or like these like series of properties because they're focused too much on trying to spread quote unquote the message rather than trying to write these characters in the best way they can, regardless of the medium being TV shows or movies.
Oh, exactly. Yeah. It's just gonna collapse in on itself.
So, more of the story is write good characters and focus on that, and write good stories.
That's a good message. Yes.
Worry about everything else later.
Oh, exactly. Gotta have a good foundation. Like the story is a foundation. You gotta build up from there. You can't just like throw in other stuff first.
Well, this has been going on for actually 2 hours. It's longer than I anticipated. So, since it's just the two of us, is there anything else you'd like to add on, or anything that you really like, or that you think it's probably like a good practice?
Oh yeah, I just gotta say that I'm looking forward to seeing where the future goes, and for the MCU to see how it all ties together, and to see if things do get better and things go in a good direction. I'm especially excited for future projects like Moon Knight. That's gonna be cool. I've been waiting for Moon Knight for years, man. That's gonna be great.
I was just about the same thing. I'd say the same thing. Like I'm really excited for Moon Knight. I want to see how I want to see the direction that they take that in.
Oh, me too. That's gonna be exciting.
Yeah, I mean, I saw She-Hulk, but I haven't really read too much about She-Hulk, and I mean, to be fair, I haven't really read too much about Moon Knight, but the fact that he's like basically Batman and he's actually psychotic, he is schizophrenic, that seems more interesting.
Oh, exactly.
Yeah, I'm really interested in seeing like how that plays out, especially with Oscar Isaac being
so good.
the main role, because he's actually a really good actor.
He is, yeah. I've liked him as Poe. He's great, but he's great in other stuff too, like Inside Llewyn Davis, and of course, most recently with Dune. He's fantastic in that.
Oh yeah, he did a great job.
Yeah.
That.
Oh my God, yes.
So, yeah. Any other movies, TV shows that you're looking forward to?
Secret Invasion sounds pretty interesting. There's something else too.
Are they?
Yeah, sorry.
Are they actually going with Secret Invasion?
Yeah, I'm not really sure what they're doing. It's like a Nick Fury thing, but it should be interesting to see what they do exactly. Yeah, because they've got sort of that setup already with the ending of Far From Home, so that should be interesting to see where they carry it with the Skrulls and stuff.
Yeah, that had me curious because they made the Skrulls the good guys in the movies.
Yeah, I didn't expect that.
But the whole point of Secret Invasion is that the Skrulls are bad guys.
Yeah, that they're invading the world.
Yeah, and they're invading the world. It's like, okay, so are they going to turn bad, or is it like a hive mind, kind of like the Clintar, or you guys, the people that are listening probably know the symbiotes from Spider-Man. It's like, is there going to be a hive mind that tells them to be bad or to invade the world? It's like, what direction are they going to take it? So I'm a bit more pessimistic about that one personally, but hopefully they can pull that off.
Yeah, hopefully so. Yeah.
I mean, personally, I'm more excited to see how they handle the X-Men, because I think that would be probably like the best property to like if they had to really do it, like pander towards the more quote unquote woke people, because that's the property to do it with.
It is.
You got like a bunch of people that are born a certain way, they can't really change it. I mean, how more open-minded could you get with that?
Exactly, it's perfect.
Yeah, so I'm excited to see what they do with the X-Men, especially the Fantastic Four.
Oh, yes.
I really want to see their take on it. I'm going to be disappointed if they just end up going in the direction of that Fox did before and just basically do the same thing. That's really going to piss me off.
Yeah.
But I'm really excited to see how they handle Doctor Doom, because Doctor Doom, the movies just can't seem to figure out how to get Doctor Doom right. It's not that hard.
Yeah.
It's really not hard. And like the best interpretation, like the most accurate interpretation would be like the movie that was made in like the 80s or the 90s, the really crappy one.
Yes.
It's like, because he's not just some guy with metal who's made of metal and like shoots electricity, or some guy with telekinetic powers. Like, he's a dictator that combines science with magic.
Exactly.
It's
Yeah.
like-
It's pretty simple.
It's like, how do you mess that up?
Oh, it's crazy.
But that's another topic for another time. But anyway, I'm very glad that you stuck this long. This one's been a lot longer than I anticipated. Like I said, like the movie reviews, I would expect those to be much longer, but this one ended up being an hour longer. So I'm very glad that you guys stuck around, especially since 3 people had to leave.
Yeah.
But thank you very much. I didn't introduce myself in the beginning, but I'm the Funny Hatter. I'm your host with, I would say probably is my co-host at this point, because he's been very consistent, and he's the editor.
Oh, yeah. Okay. Christopher.
Christopher. Yep. Thank you very much.
Thank you, too.
And hope to see you guys next time. We don't know the topic for the next video, or episode, but we'll figure it out.
Yes, we will. Yes. Goodbye.
Bye.
People are strange when you're a stranger. Faces look ugly when you're alone. Women seem wicked when you're unwanted. Streets are uneven when you're down, when you're strange. Faces come out of the rain when you're strange. No one remembers your name when you're strange.